Okay. Wow. Uh, my last video on tracing was in 2017, and that was a very different time for the channel. Going back to watch that video now is a little crazy. I've come to realize I made a good number of excellent points in that video, but the delivery of the message is a little unorganized and hard to follow. So I thought I could revisit the tracing video and have a better look at what is actually going on when people trace. Most people within the art community don't want to hear that someone is tracing work. It had a seriously bad rap for a long time, but around 2017, people like myself and a few others made a pretty important stand against the notion by saying that there were totally normal and acceptable forms of tracing. And that rocked the boat a little bit. Suddenly, people were given this new concept that tracing in itself was supposed to be a learning tool and a tool used to make the process of animation faster. This led to a lot of head scratching and chatter as everyone attempted to apply this new idea of tracing to their already well accepted hatred for it. And it definitely took some time, but it became an accepted idea. Great! Now that everyone is accepting certain types of tracing, but still not others, this was a slightly better way going forward because real life is full of gray areas and I feel like we forget that online sometimes. On the internet, we tend to use the black and white method of determining whether something is right and wrong. Oh, side note, I thought the black and white method of right and wrong was super common and would be easy to research, but it's actually much harder to find the answers I was looking for than I thought. So I'm going to link the source that I have below in case anybody wants to learn more about what I'm talking about. But anyway, back to the video. Put simply, the black and white method of thinking is basically only seeing two extremes. Something is either good or bad without gray areas to put exceptions. This is totally fine when explaining to someone, for example, that you really like mint ice cream but you cannot eat chocolate ice cream to save your life. You are fine with one option but not the other, and that's black and white. However, when you apply this to something like tracing, and tracing is put into the extreme bad end of the scale, that puts those using the tool correctly in a light that doesn't reflect their work. Topics like tracing need a different scale of measurement, when it's right or okay to use tracing versus when it's not. I personally think we can evaluate tracing better with two overlapping circles, otherwise known as a Venn diagram. That way, we can view the good and the bad and the in-between areas that depend. Of course, even a Venn diagram will fall short if you try to apply every possible unique case that has happened to it, because research and data just can't predict every real world possibility, and that's why we have to be able to make decisions on things at the moment and not just follow whatever mainstream opinions are on the go at the time. The internet tends to follow specific trends in opinion, which only shift or evolve when someone with enough influence steps forward with a new idea or a new thought that are then adopted by their viewers. This carries forward as other individuals with large viewer base keep spreading the new era of thinking. Smaller creators get in on adopting the new idea as well, and we end up with a flood of content based on a new belief. In 2017, we saw a lot of this within the DA ranting community, which wasn't a bad thing at all, like it was portrayed. I'm still a strong supporter of so many great ideas that came from that era of content. It's too bad many of them got away from content creating because they had a big impact on the upcoming artists on the internet. But I'm a little off track here, so let's circle back. We all know we shouldn't use tracing and upload it to the internet, but I really wonder if people really understand where tracing and referencing cross over, for example. Or if there are younger artists that may not know when referencing end and tracing begins, because there are definitely drawing techniques that I feel would confuse someone just getting started into directly tracing and not realizing that that's not okay. I've prepared a few visual guides for this part of the video to hopefully help everyone understand what I'm saying better, so I really hope these help. The first tracing I want to talk about is the most obvious, direct traces. This covers two types, tracing someone else's art and tracing photo references. While both of these types of tracing are perfectly fine for practice because they help you develop muscle memory for the shapes of things you are learning to draw, that's just what they are, a tool, a learning tool. And I would personally encourage you to do both. Tracing photo references allows you to learn how real-life creatures look and teach you so much about depth, while tracing other artists' work shows you how to properly represent that depth within art. While yes, I don't encourage you to directly upload any traced work from a photo either, what you can do is redraw the traced work freehand and upload that. This is actually how I do most of my work. I use references constantly, and doing a trace like the one you see on this guide and drawing based on that is how I would say 90% of my drawings are done. It's a totally valid drawing tool, and you don't have to completely give up doing this to become a real artist. Tying into this, we have the most common use of tracing as a tool, which is studying shapes from another artist and anatomy referencing. You'll notice I use the same example for this one on the right. That's because the two can be very similar. It just depends on how you use the trace lines. Directly uploading them to the internet is a no-no. However, using them as a guide to draw your own work is perfectly acceptable. In my most personal opinion, you can use both of these to create your own type of drawing. You're really only referencing the posing here, and I'm totally okay with that as long as you drew everything after the study. Yes, that is totally valid. I don't see why not. I would also like to make it clear that I am condensing a lot of information into as little time as possible, which can totally lead to me forgetting to mention something that might be really important as to these different types of tracing. So please, by all means, if I'm missing something or you want to add something to any of the examples that I mentioned in this video, my comment section is always open for discussion. I'd love to know how you feel. Getting back to the video once again, one of the saddest things I see happening online to artists these days is trying to prove they drew something, like uploading all the layers of a drawing to show that they put the work in and it's not traced. I personally believe artists are under a tremendous amount of pressure to be real and genuine, but that's just the internet, I guess. It's a lot of responsibility to be the only one drawing a certain thing in a certain way. Similar pieces are not necessarily traced or fakes. Using the same or similar references can lead to this, and it's really not a big deal, but for some people, they think it is. Trying to prove who drew it first is a bit childish to me, but I don't get to make the rules, I guess. Each situation when it comes to tracing or art theft is going to be unique and have different outcomes. Sometimes it's not always going to be clear if someone is really in the wrong, and other times people are going to get seriously hurt for being completely innocent. What I'm getting at is please be kind to each other. Even when someone is wrong, there are ways to handle it that don't involve hurting each other. Please be kind, take care of each other, and always remember there's another person on the other side of the screen. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. This one might be a little longer, but you know what? That's okay. It's nice to have some longer content sometimes. I feel like I put a lot of information into, a small condensed version. I really wish that, I could super expand on some of this stuff, and maybe in the future I will. I could maybe do, maybe a 4-part series or something, talking about each particular type of tracing, but I don't know if that's really necessary or if there's a demand for something like that. So, my comments are totally open, as mentioned earlier. If that's something you're interested in, you can totally let me know. I'm up for whatever it is that you guys want to see. I can put some research into it, it'll be great. But anyway, guys, as always, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.